Good morning, ladies and gents. Welcome to Sydney for the 12th and final public hearing of the Royal Commission into Defence and Veteran Suicides. I also want to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. And we thank Uncle Alan again for his warm welcome to country, very much appreciated. We also welcome and acknowledge all First Nations peoples here today or watching online. We recognise your elders past and present and respect your continuing cultural, spiritual, physical and emotional connection with the lands, waters and community of our shared nation. As always, we would also like to acknowledge the serving and ex-serving members of the Australian Defence Force and their families for the unique and important sacrifices they have made on behalf of our country. We honour you for all that you do and all that you have done. Speaking to you today at the opening of this final hearing block, we must reflect on the past 32 months of our inquiry. When we began in July 2021, the national tragedy of defence and veteran suicide was apparent, with 1,273 deaths by suicide confirmed between 2001 and 2019 for serving and ex-serving ADF personnel who had served since 1985. This undoubtedly underestimated the true number of deaths, as it does not include deaths where the intent could not be confirmed, nor does it include veterans who served before 1985, as many of our Vietnam veterans did. Sadly, the number of confirmed suicide deaths has continued to grow, illustrating the magnitude of the issue we have been confronting. We now know there have been 1,677 confirmed deaths by suicide between 1997 and the end of 2021 for those who served after 1985. If we include confirmed suicide deaths back to 1985, that number grows by 330 to 2,007. If we look further back to tragic deaths that were not confirmed as suicide, but include deaths of ex-serving members by drug and alcohol poisoning, both accidental and undetermined intent, as well as chronic liver diseases, that number rises by another 825. To that, we must also consider the additional 623 ex-serving veterans who died during the same period due to road crashes, some of which may well have been unconfirmed suicides. These numbers represent a staggering loss of life of some of Australia's finest and require us to confront this national tragedy head-on. The Royal Commission has worked tirelessly, looking for systemic factors where change can be leveraged across the broad veteran support ecosystem to stem the tide of these deaths. When we speak of the veteran support ecosystem, this encompasses governments, defence, the ADF, DVA, other relevant federal, state and territory departments, oversight bodies, ex-service organisations and other veteran support organisations and the communities more broadly. Our inquiry has been a complex undertaking in a complex environment dealing with a complex issue. In that time, we've conducted 11 public hearings and heard from 308 witnesses, with some 40 witnesses scheduled for this hearing block. We've received 5,889 submissions, all of which have been studied and read multiple times and coded for the key themes that they reveal. We've conducted 746 one-on-one private sessions with people with lived experience, with up to 200 more still to be completed before June this year. These have been completed with the assistance of our recently appointed Assistant Commissioners, Mr Bob Atkinson, former Queensland Police Commissioner and a former Commissioner on the Child Abuse Royal Commission, and eminent health practitioner Dr Susan Young. We've issued more than 1,450 compulsory notices and received more than 250,000 documents in response. We've undertaken 26 visits to defence bases across Australia to hear directly from current service personnel about the challenges and opportunities of life in our Navy, Army and Air Force. We've reviewed academic literature. We've conducted a range of qualitative and quantitative analyses of data and information made available to us. We've commissioned external research from esteemed academics, and we've engaged broadly with stakeholders in Australia and overseas, including speaking with approximately 300 key informants in our Five Eyes partner countries. But most importantly, our lines of inquiry have been informed by the voice of lived experience, and we want to acknowledge the courage of all those who have come forward and shared their story with us in submissions, private sessions, and public hearings. It's been their deeply personal and often harrowing experiences that have shone a bright light on the cultural and systemic issues that are failing serving and ex-serving ADF personnel and which are contributing to the national crisis of defence and veteran suicide. For many, it's taken extraordinary resilience and strength to relive these experiences, and while heartbreaking, it's been essential for us to hear their stories, which have greatly influenced and shaped our thinking. Many of the people who came forward told us of their immense pride of serving for their country, but also expressed a strong sense of disappointment and betrayal at being let down by the organisational responses to the issues they've raised. Some are angry or bitter, many are sad, others are shattered, but almost all want to help make it better. They want the Defence Force to succeed. They do not want others to have the same experiences that they have had. They want DVA to provide the support needed for veterans to live meaningful lives and participate in their communities to the fullest extent possible. And fundamentally, they want dignity and respect, to be heard, to be treated fairly and with compassion. This is absolutely what this Royal Commission wants as well. In September last year, I spoke at the National Press Club in Canberra about the tragedy of veteran suicide. My speech outlined how successive governments, government departments and the ADF have failed those who serve our nation in uniform. We urged government and defence leadership to see this Royal Commission as an opportunity, not a threat, to drive the long overdue change that is needed to ensure a sustainable, strong and better ADF, which provides a psychologically safe workplace for its people. My fellow commissioners and I were heartened by the response from stakeholders and the public with whom our message resonated. Perhaps there were many who had been touched by one of the more than 3,000 deaths since 1985 that should have been preventable if only the lessons to be learned over the decades had been heeded and the necessary diligence applied to ensure that the desired outcomes were achieved. Perhaps it was their own experience in service or of post-service life or those of their loved ones where the chord was struck. Such memories do not fade easily. But make no mistake, this Royal Commission is responding to a national crisis that has been decades in the making, a crisis that has not yet been stemmed. Rarely a week goes by that we are not alerted to the untimely death of another serving or ex-serving member, which serves to remind us of the seriousness of the issue. We note that the Defence Force is currently faced with multiple complex challenges, including the recruitment and retention crisis and geopolitical tensions. We have consistently sought not to undermine Australia's defence capability, nor have we sought to tarnish Australia's proud military history. We are not the cause of the ADF's troubles, but our data analysis has confirmed that their greatest enemy lies within the ADF itself and its resistance to change. It's apparent from the evidence we've uncovered that there are deep-rooted cultural and systemic challenges within the ADF and DVA and across the broader veteran ecosystem which have had dire consequences. They need to be urgently addressed. Considering there's been at least 57 previous reviews and inquiries that have not succeeded in delivering impactful or sustained change, what is required for leaders across the veteran ecosystem is to accept the failures we have uncovered and to act now to address the issues affecting the health and well-being of veterans and their families. There is no time to waste. No longer can these systemic issues be denied, dismissed, diminished or deflected by those in the halls of power and positions of leadership. Their lack of ownership of these issues, their lack of curiosity about contributing issues, and their willingness to accept glossy versions of history over stark facts cannot continue. No more can the siloed, fragmented and incremental approach to veteran support be tolerated. There must be collaboration, cooperation, governance and accountability for all parties. While government and the ADF frequently say people are their most important asset, it is very arguable that there has been inadequate accountability and, frankly, curiosity on the part of defence leadership in relation to issues of suicide and suicidality among members. I reiterate that this inquiry should be viewed by governments and all agencies as an opportunity for positive change. Notwithstanding the recommendations we will make in our final report, which are due to the Governor-General on the 9th of September, we know that sustainable change will take time, and without continued scrutiny and robust independent oversight may never be achieved. That is why we believe there should be an entity to follow this Royal Commission with sufficient powers to independently monitor the implementation of our recommendations and to ensure the issue of defence and veteran suicide remains a key priority and focus for governments and agencies within the veteran ecosystem into the future. Bipartisan commitment will be required to ensure the longevity of the reforms we will recommend. There should be no politicisation of these issues, and the Parliament must maintain a stronger focus on these issues to ensure government and its agencies are delivering on their commitments. We look forward to hearing from the Minister for Defence, the Honourable Richard Marles, and the Minister for Veteran Affairs and Defence Personnel, the Honourable Matt Keogh, MP, who will appear before us for the first time during these hearings. We also look forward to hearing again from Senator Jackie Lambie regarding the role of Parliament in driving sustained change. We will hear from 2 state and 1 territory Veteran Affairs Ministers to further inform our understanding of the Commonwealth-state divide when it comes to supporting veterans and their families. And we will hear from the Chief of Defence, the Vice Chief of the ADF and the Tri-Service Chiefs, as well as a number of other senior military leaders about what they're doing to address our concerns in the areas of culture, leadership, governance and accountability, and plans for future action. DVA and its approach to veterans' entitlements will again be a key focus over the next few weeks. At our Adelaide hearing, we heard from the Secretary of DVA, Alison Frame, who apologised unreservedly for past practices of the department that have caused hurt and distress to the veteran community. We acknowledge that DVA have made significant progress to eliminate the backlog of compensation claims based on the recommendations in our interim report, and we congratulate them on beginning on their journey to improve. However, the problems inside DVA are not restricted to the claims backlog. We have uncovered a range of cultural, systemic and structural issues that need to be urgently addressed. Work on some of these issues has already commenced and is continuing, but more needs to be done. And of course, we will again hear from people with lived experience during the course of the hearings. As we have said many times, this Royal Commission must be a line in the sand. Serving and ex-serving ADF members have done all their nation has asked of them. They have donned the uniform, trained hard, worked hard, prepared constantly, often leaving their loved ones for long periods of time. And when asked, they have gone where angels fear to tread. Our nation owes them a debt of gratitude, and we must ensure that all the issues causing them preventable harm are addressed. We have heard the rhetoric about human capability and about people being the ADF's greatest asset. Our recommendations to government will be designed to make this rhetoric a lived reality for all members and their families. We again urge the Prime Minister, relevant ministers and the leadership of Defence and DVA to see this Royal Commission as an opportunity to drive the long overdue change that is required to ensure serving and ex-serving ADF members and their families have the support they need and deserve. It's important to recognise that there will be no quick fix to these issues, and real, long-lasting and meaningful reforms will take time and a concerted effort from both sides of politics and all concerned. And it's imperative these issues are not politicised. The public and the media also have a role to play. There is scope for more involvement and greater awareness and interest from all Australians in the plight of our military personnel and veterans. We as a nation owe those who pull on the uniform of our Navy, Army and Air Force an enormous debt of gratitude for the unique sacrifices they make in going to work each day to protect us. It is not enough to reflect on the sacrifice of our veterans only on days of commemoration and remembrance. Finally, a warning that some people may find the evidence presented at this hearing distressing. So I remind everyone who is present that we do have counsellors available should you need them. For those watching our live stream, please get in touch with our counselling and inquiry support team if you require any assistance. The phone number is on our website. Thank you. I now invite Counsel Assisting Ms Erin Longbottom, KC, to make her opening remarks.